again to talk about how good you once were, so please just give me a minute. Rugby's an all-weather sport, so we're just going to have to deal with it. So please just try to stay dry, but the one thing we cannot do is we're live streaming this, so you can't block the video camera. So we'll kick this off in about 2 minutes. Thank you. Good afternoon. We're going to go ahead and start it a couple minutes early. I think we got everybody made that's here. So please, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to kick this off. If I can have your attention, please. Good afternoon. My name is Rob Sinneram. I have the distinct privilege of being a Rugby Hall of Fame chairman. Scotty, can you keep him quiet in the back? Please help me out. Thank you. I'd like to express a special welcome to Admiral Jim Kilby, selected as the next Vice Chief of Naval Operations. Sir, we appreciate you being here tonight and supporting your 86 classmates. So, most of you know Joe Buenavista, the dinner chairman. He puts a lot of detailed work into this event, and unfortunately he couldn't join us this weekend. But he is watching among the other 8 people on the live feed online. So we miss you, Joe. So what a hell of a year it's been since we last got together. It started in the fall with the women winning their second consecutive Division 1A national championship. It continued in the spring with the men winning their first ever Division 1 national championship. You'll hear more about that later when the coaches talk at the dinner. But the Navy Rugby family did a couple impressive things in this past year as well. Gary Laban, class of 2018, first Navy alumni to sign a professional rugby contract with the DCO glory of Major League Rugby. Not to be outdone by a former player, and he's actually running a little late, but Coach Mike Flanagan went and got himself inducted into the USA Rugby Hall of Fame. So we're going to continue that theme of greatness tonight. We're inducting 6 players, 2 teams, 1 in the supported category, and 2 in the in memoriam category, and they'll be recognized at the dinner. So we're going to get this started off with a 2022 inductee. Then, Captain Patrick O'Mahony, who's Commodore of the Shorty Squadron 2-3, and due to operational commitments, he couldn't join us in person. Fortunately, he's able to come this year so we can recognize his tremendous on-field accomplishments, all he continues to do for the Rugby Alumni Association. Pat is a plank owner of this motley crew. So, to introduce Pat, please welcome Captain Ben Oakes, Commanding Officer, USS New York.
All right, let's get this started. All right, good evening, alumni and friends of Navy Rugby. I have the pleasure of introducing my best friend and brother, Captain recently retired Patrick O'Mahony. So I was originally supposed to give this speech last year, and when he was serving as Commodore of Destroyer Squadron 23. But Pat was unable to make it to the ceremony because his deputy Commodore had a heart attack in the days leading up to the event. Thankfully, his deputy recovered and was able to relieve Pat this past May. So I guess the word on the street on the West Coast is that Pat's a hard guy to work for. And quite literally works his staff to death. What you should know is that Pat actually originally asked me to be his deputy, so maybe we aren't as good of friends as I thought. So, silver lining, I had another year to take out all the emotional and heartfelt words from my speech, so here we go. So when Pat asked me if I could do the honor of inducting him in the Hall of Fame, my first response was, "Are you sure?" There's just so much I could say. So I sat down and wrote about all my memories and the times we shared, and ended with about 25 pages, single-spaced, and it went about an hour. And then thankfully, Sinram sent me about 10 different emails and texts to say that I only got 4 minutes. I said, well, damn. So, kind of rereading my speech, I quickly realized that, okay, both of our families are going to be here, so I couldn't really tell 90% of the stories anyway. So there was that time he did his Zulu warrior, our plebe year, spilled most of the beer on the pavilion floor, and then slipped on the concrete and tackled some VMI player's girlfriend. It's still the best tackle that he ever made. There was spring break in the Bahamas our youngster year, can't talk about that. There were weekenders at Mitch's house in D.C., can't talk about that. So just so many great memories. This is going to be a lot harder than I thought, so here we go. So my first introduction to Pat was the fall of our plebe year. Like many of us, he decided varsity soccer wasn't in his future, or at least the coach did. So he decided to follow his Irish roots and check out what the rugby team was all about. So out to practice he strolls, and I'll do my best to kind of provide you a detailed mental image. First, he shows up at practice, how would I say, in a highly confident manner. If you know Pat, you know confidence, right? First, he shows up, he's got the collar of his rugby jersey popped all the way up. His wrists are taped. He's a back. He's wearing ankle socks, and his soccer cleats are tied around his ankles like ballerina slippers. I was like, he also has on the shortest pair of white rugby shorts I've ever seen. His boxer shorts, I'm pretty sure they were unauthorized, Irish, like shamrocks hanging out the bottom amongst other unmentionables. I got this about right, Pat? So, Bobby Danzy, my fellow back row player, and I, kind of two plebes on the team, look at each other and we're like, hey, Christy, earmuffs. We're like, who the F does this guy think he is? What an a-hole. My kids are right here, so I got to kind of... So I happen to know this left a lasting impression on Flanagan, and I'm pretty sure Mike assigned Sinram to be Pat's hand holder for the next 2 years, a job which endured for many years following on the West Coast. Rob, I think you did a pretty good job. So first impressions are usually wrong, right? So it quickly became evident to me that in the rest of the team that Pat had an immense amount of talent, as raw as it was, and the speed to go with it. I say raw because he also had this attitude that, playing with him, and I think I can speak for Coach, probably frustrating at times. It's a good thing the old saying goes, hard work trumps talent every time, or something like that. Maybe I have that backwards. I could say this changed over time, but I'd be lying to you. Case being, at one point during practice with the combined services on a tour to Australia, Sinram turns to me and says, Ben, you'd be a lot better rugby player if you didn't hang out with Pat. To which I responded, F you, Rob. So for 4 years, I'd go on to have the pleasure of playing the same 15 with Pat, a strong core of rugby brothers from the class of '99. I can honestly say that knowing Pat was to my right or left, wearing the number 13 jersey and leading the back line gave me and the others great confidence and allowed us to take a lot more risks as a team. He couldn't or wouldn't make a tackle, and we knew that, and he tried to make some terrible behind-the-back passes on occasion, but he was always good to break out a long run or pull some ridiculous grubber through the back line that would bounce up just in time as he was running onto it and score a try. Truthfully, Pat could also kick the ball anywhere on the field at any time in the game. As a team captain, I knew that we were always good to take points anywhere inside the opponent's half. I also knew it bothered him that his 8-man could also make the same kicks. Sue, how am I doing on time, Rob? I'm over? I'm good? Okay. I'll keep going then. So there's so many stories I can share with you, but I'll offer just a few. So first, it was the summer after our junior year at All-American Trials out in Long Beach. At the end of day one, the American coaches post the list of probables and possibles for for a game to be played on day 2. Be it miscommunication with Mike or Pat just being stubborn or hard-headed, simple mistake on Pat's part, whatever, Pat didn't know his name was on the list of the possibles. So he goes out for a few drinks the night after with some of the other guys. He thought his weekend of rugby was over. The next day, Donnie Fall, Jay Kerriman, Jeremy Graysick, and I show up for our game with our respective sides. And at some point that morning, Pat was notified he needed to be on the field to play rugby with the possibles, and man, was he hot. I can tell you that Pat went out there and played his heart out at about 25% capacity, ice, maybe something else running through his veins. Pat, the warrior. Fast forward to the playoffs our senior year, and we're at Ohio State to play Indiana to determine who's going to go to the Final Four out in California. Indiana was going to be a tough game. They had a decent starting 15, highlighted by a forward pack and back row that included twin brothers, the younger brothers, both All-Americans and few other monsters from the cornfields of Indiana. Going into that game, we knew it was going to be a battle in the rucks, and the team that proved to be the hardest was probably going to win. Well, a battle it was, and for 80 minutes, the two forward packs went toe-to-toe and savagely attacked the other, gaining little ground one way or another. From my perspective at the back of the pack, it was a stalemate, except it wasn't. We won handily because Pat O'Mahony scored every point for Navy that day. A couple of tries and a few penalty kicks later, it was Pat many, Indiana few. It was one of the most dominating performances of a single rugby player in a game that I've ever seen. Pat, the warrior. So for 4 years at Navy and a handful of great years post-Navy playing for All-Navy and combined services, I had the pleasure of taking the pitch alongside Pat. The memories we made wearing the jersey are some of the fondest of my lifetime. Moreover, I have the honor of having had Pat as my best friend and brother for the past 28 years. Through the celebrations we've enjoyed and the tragedies we've had to endure, he's always been there, and I know he always will be. Through the hard head and that silly-looking rugby kit exists the most loyal friend and fellow warrior a guy could ever ask for. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention I have Navy Rugby to thank for that. Pat, congratulations on a well-deserved place in the Navy Rugby Hall of Fame. It's been an honor, and I love you, brother.
You want a picture?
You got the picture.
You're right, Pat. You're on the right.
What? Oh, over there?
All the way up the street here. That's his brother. Silliness.
Silly.
Well, I wasn't expecting that. And Finnegan, Ryan, Declan, and Rory, none of that was true. Not a single bit of it, except for the ballerina lace cleats. That was true. And maybe the pop collar and the boxer shorts hanging out. Look, I'm honored and humbled by this opportunity to sit before you and join the Hall of Fame class. It's been to say it's been a busy year and a busy last couple of days is probably an understatement. So being here, I'm just fortunate and grateful to be able to stand here, even in the rain, and getting soaked. And Rob, great job on putting all these together. These Hall of Fame ceremonies have been just flawless, with the exception of aviators not planning for rain. Swells would have done different, but that's another story, right? But I'm truly grateful that everybody is here in our company. Now, I'll keep these comments relatively short because if you know Scotty Gleason, he's speaking twice today. 2 times. So I'm going to give him the balance of my time because he's going to need it. And maybe you guys will too. So the sport. The sport has given me so much. I've traveled to Australia, Europe, South Africa, and Ireland, playing top-level rugby with my best friends. Can't have it any better. It's gritty, it's primal, and it's pure. And it's the only sport I know that holds character accountable. The people. I've forged lifelong friendships, many of them sitting here, across decades, across classes, across communities. Irreplaceable. I was in Ireland with my family a couple summers ago, and we were in a small bar in Killarney called the Golden Nugget. Fortunately, you can bring your kids in there and they can sit at the bar, and it's Ireland, right? So they're playing snooker, we're all having a good time, my family, my wife's family, and there's another family with 4 kids, and another gentleman in there having a good time, and our kids are playing snooker together. And the two of us look at each other, this is 2017, I think, 20 years on. The two of us look at each other, like, I know you. I think I know you. I played rugby we took a trip to Ireland and played 10 days of rugby in Ireland, and we played the Irish Navy. And he was a Master Chief now, or then, and when we played him, he was on the Irish rugby team, Irish Navy rugby team. And so the two of us immediately made that connection, and it was inseparable. So 20 years on, this sport has brought 2 gentlemen together who both served their country honorably, and now our kids are playing snooker together in an Irish bar in Killarney, of all places. So to say that rugby fosters connections and cultivates connections with people of all ages, of all demographics, is an understatement. And so I've benefited from that, and anybody who plays the sport, I think, benefits from that too. It's just such a special thing, and it's hard to describe. Navy rugby program, and it's brought many decades together, particularly this effort right here with the Navy Rugby Alumni Association, to which I'm super proud to be a part of and a member of. Sam Marone, okay, Ernie Blake, okay, Carlton Fulford, Mark Baliotti, okay, Coach Flanagan, Coach Gavin, just a host of other people along the way, and I would sit here probably and spend the remainder of my time talking about how many people have made a difference in this program and in my life. It's just immeasurable. Stewardship. In Colorado, Sean Grunwell, who's here today, he was coaching All Navy. And I lived in Colorado at the time. I was at Northcom. Came up to watch rugby, had my dog, had the kids, flip-flops and all. Sean said, "Hey, Pat, I need you to say something to the guys before they go on the pitch to play Air Force," I think it was, or Army, I can't remember what it was, but I was kind of caught by surprise. And so I went in and I joined the huddle, and I did my best rah-rah speech I could give, and then walked away. I don't necessarily think it was effective. I wasn't prepared for it, but I should have been. But that was a bit of a tipping point for me to remind me that I'm a steward of history. I'm a steward of the game. I'm a steward of the Navy rugby program. And a leader asked me to speak to the troops to get them rallied for battle. And from then on, I was reminded of every interaction and every engagement that I have with the future of rugby and the future of our program, and certainly the future of the Navy, is vital, is important. And I need to be prepared for that. And so as I continue to burn through my time, okay, I went to Coronado, and I was offered an opportunity to coach a middle school team. And I reached out to a couple guys here and said, "Hey, I'm not a coach, I'm a player." But then I was reminded of the time in Colorado where I wasn't prepared to give the rah-rah speech to light a fire with the team, and I realized, wait, I have a responsibility. My responsibility is to carry the torch. We're all responsible for carrying on the legacy of our program and the honor of those that came before us. Honoring our past and being stewards of history compels us to act and propels us into the future. Our legacy, the legacy of Navy Rugby program, is emblematic of the warrior ethos. We choose to carry more. We do the hard things. Indeed, for us, the obstacle is the way. I'm grateful for this recognition, and will hold solemn the responsibility of carrying the torch that leads to victory. Thank you again for this honor.
So I thought I was being pretty smart by having 2 career SWOs go first, because they would set the example how to stay on time. Completely backfired. Our next inductee, Dave Long, class of '86, along with his teammate George Prokak, let the college rugby world know that not only does Navy produce great teams, but they produce exceptional players. You see, Dave and George were Navy's first 2 All-Americans. Present Dave's his teammate, and I might butcher it, Tom Kolinkowski. Tom, if you could please come up.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored to be up here tonight in front of family, friends, classmates, shipmates, teammates, rugby players, ladies and gentlemen. I'm honored. It's a distinct pleasure to be able to introduce my classmate, roommate, friend, teammate David Long to the Naval Academy Rugby Hall of Fame. Dave, you certainly deserve everything that you've earned. Dave actually told me I had 2 minutes. I don't know how everybody else got 4 minutes, so anyway, Dave came to the Naval Academy from Tampa, Florida, where he was an outstanding, overachieving academician, but more importantly, an incredible athlete. Dave earned all-state honors in football down in Tampa, Florida, all-county, Golden Helmet Award, top player in Tampa Bay, Florida High School All-American, and set the school record and a state record for most receptions in a single season. So Dave came to